Uh, Seeing that the old law would probably be, well, I would say, not in tune anymore with the drug scenario, lawmakers felt it appropriate to enact a stronger anti-drug law in the form of RA 9165, which is now our enabling law. And the rest is history. So the Dangerous Drugs Board was reconstituted, and it is the main policy-making body, while the PIDEA, which also sits as a member of the board, through our Director General, is the main implementing arm of the Dangerous Drugs Board.
So sir, you're saying that since yung material ba niya galing China,
Opo.
dito po niluluto? I mean,
Well, hindi lang dito. Pwede rin sa neighboring Asian countries like Malaysia, where some clandestine laboratories were dismantled. Even in Thailand, meron. So drug trafficking organizations, especially the transnational ones, undertake either smuggling or manufacturing, or both at the same time, whichever is more convenient for them or whenever opportunities allow such activities to thrive. No? So if you cannot smuggle, they'll manufacture and vice versa. Or they'll do both at the same time.
so can we say, sir, na yung 1980s, that was the time na talaga proliferation drugs nationwide?
Well, hindi naman, sir. May problema na tayo dati sa marijuana, which is also endemic to the country. There are several parts of the country where, especially in the Cordilleras, where it thrives in several plantations. But the entry of Shabu changed the landscape of the problem. Kasi ibang-iba po siya. While originally it was supposed to mimic cocaine. Now, if you peruse from the current prices of dangerous drugs, Shabu has even overtaken cocaine in terms of price because of the demand, the high demand for it, compared to other drugs.
When you say that the price, mas mahal na ho ang Shabu kaysa sa cocaine?
Well, halos katapat po per kilogram in terms of yung price range. Dynamic yung movement ng Shabu. Akyat panaog po siya.
Akala ko, sir, it's a poor man's
It used to be
drug.
called poor man's cocaine because it's supposed to mimic the effect of cocaine. However, because it is compared to cocaine, which is taken from the coca plant, Shabu is not of plant origin. It's fully synthetic. And therefore, more devastating ang kanyang physical and mental and psychological effects compared to cocaine. And then again, as I said, yung highly addictive ang nature po niya.
So I have to ask this. Bakit ba, why is it so attractive among, let's say, the poor? I mean, you know.
Well, there is a social dimension to the problem. With poverty, of course, poverty evident everywhere. There is a social and economic aspect to this. And which is why the Director General of PIDEA, through, of course, receiving marching orders from no less than the President, who made suppressing the drug problem or ending the drug problem his campaign promise and his centerpiece of governance. Our Director General has embraced a whole-of-nation approach to this, and which brought rise to the establishment of the Interagency Committee on Anti-Illegal Drugs through Executive Order Number 15, which entails not just enforcement, but different clusters covering justice, advocacy, rehabilitation, and reintegration. Because you cannot solve the drug problem only by enforcement efforts alone. It has to be coupled with filing airtight cases against arrested personalities, conducting advocacy activities to spread or to educate people on the ill effects of dangerous drugs and involvement in the repercussions or the consequences of being involved in illegal drug activities, while rehabilitating or introducing interventions to those in varying degrees of use or dependence to drugs, mild, moderate, and severe. And of course, reintegrating them into the mainstream of society after they're successfully rehabilitated.
Okay, so if I may ask, when Shabu came in, and right now it seems that the president, kasi when he campaigned, during the campaign, he said he would solve the problem within 6 months. And then later on he said he didn't know that the problem was this
This enormous.
no? So ano ba naging problema, sir? I mean, in terms of addressing the problem during the 80s?
Perhaps it's all about, yun nga po focusing too much on only one aspect of the campaign. In the 80s, I was still a student back then. And then I joined drug law enforcement as one of the first agents of the PIDEA back in 2006. We were supply reduction heavy for the most part. In other words, it's more on suppressing the supply by stopping smuggling, dismantling clandestine laboratories, arresting personalities, filing cases. But we will just be like dogs chasing our tail if we forget that there is more to the anti-drug campaign than just arrests and operations. We have to address the demand. If we do not take away the market from the illegal drug trade, hanggat meron pong tumatangkilik, may magpaparating. For as long as there will be people patronizing the illegal drug trade, illegal drug syndicates, whether local or transnational, will continue to either smuggle or manufacture to meet the demand. So it has to be a whole-of-nation approach. And as the Director General advocated, it should be brought down, or the fight should be brought down all the way to the grassroots. Because no matter where drugs are sourced, whether it be smuggled or locally manufactured or internationally manufactured and brought in or transshipped, there will be no other destination except the barangays or the villages. And this is why we advocate to make families, the basic social unit, drug resistant, which will eventually comprise drug resistant communities that will make a ripple effect to the municipalities, cities, provinces, and all the way to the whole nation.
Which brings me to the question, sir.
Yes, sir.
As pointed out by the Director General during the last press conference.
Yes, sir.
There is about half of the barangays are still affected.
True.
And he did say that if the intention is to clear these barangays by the end of the term of the President,
Yes.
how do you propose to do it, sir?
All right. As of now, sir, based on the latest figures reckoning to from July 1 to June 13, which was from the assumption of the Duterte administration up until about more or less than 2 weeks back. Based on data gathered nationwide, out of the 42,036 barangays in the Philippines, we're looking at about 48% drug affectation in varying degrees. Slightly affected, moderately affected, and seriously affected. I hope you were given figures for this. So if you will look at that, there's about a 48% affectation rate nationwide, representing about 20,104. Our Director General proposes about a target of at least 5,272 barangays per year. And as of 2017, this year, the current year, the target is 5,272. We have cleared 3,677, or about 70%. If we maintain this pace for the next 3 to 4 years, we are looking to clear all these drug-affected barangays in about less than 4 years, and to sustain the effort so that these cleared barangays will no longer be re-infiltrated or will no longer become affected again by dangerous drugs. How do we do this? Again, we will reckon back to barangay drug clearing operations, which entails the different processes of pre-operation, operation, and post-operation. In a nutshell, it will involve law enforcement efforts, house visits, which is in the local parlance, tukhang, advocacy, and then again, rehabilitation and reintegration. Why the barangay? Because as we mentioned earlier, no matter where drugs come from, they will always land in the villages. And so our Director General believes that the fight against dangerous drugs, at the end of the day, the final battle will be fought right at the doorsteps of every barangay. And this is how we do it. Make families aware that the problem or the solution to the problem starts with them and should be taken to the communities, municipalities, cities, and provinces. So that's how we view it, sir. It's enlisting the support of every Filipino.
So yung na-clear na barangays na, sir,
Yes, sir.
in this year, paano ho how did you successfully do it?
Yun po, we engaged the local government unit and ensured that the cooperation of the barangay officials will be 100% in one. identifying drug personalities in their area, demarcating which ones are drug pushers versus the users. Because the pushers need to be arrested, while the users need to be assessed, evaluated properly, so that we can introduce the proper intervention, whether community-based, outpatient, or inpatient rehabilitation. And then we have to put programs in place to address especially the bulk of the surrenderers who fall under community-based rehabilitation, while the rest are outpatient and inpatient rehabilitation efforts. And then to put systems and processes in place in every local government unit so that those who successfully undergo rehabilitation must have corresponding livelihood projects so that they will not reason out, we do not have any means of livelihood, and that's why we turn to drugs as our source of everyday sustenance, or to get income in order to sustain our families. And that's how we suppress the supply, but at the same time address the demand and took away their reason for saying that they have no recourse but to be involved. And that's how it was done, sir. The first drug-cleared province was Batanes. Documented drug-cleared province. And it was visited by the Director General on June 2. I think it was June. The first week of June.
Ito yung Kanawan, always in the news. Yung Kanawan po, Kanawan sa Batangas.
Batangas?
Kanawan City.
Opo. Yung mayor? Yung nagsishame campaign?
Pinaparada niya.
Well, see, these are different interventions introduced by the different local government executives. Simply because they see that the urgency of the problem. But of course, they have different methods of approaching or solving the problem.
Okay, yan yung po yung sa barangay level. But yung ano naman po, yung suppression of supply.
That's why, sir, through Executive Order number 15, the President established what is called the ICAD, or the Interagency Committee on Anti-Illegal Drugs, which aims to unify, synchronize, and integrate all anti-drug efforts of the government. PIDEA is the chairman through our Director General. So he's concurrent chairman of ICAD, and it is now composed of what originally was 21 agencies. Now, sir, it's composed of 39 different agencies. Okay? And it's divided into 4 clusters: law enforcement, justice, advocacy, then rehabilitation and reintegration. So that there are 4 focus areas in which we implement the anti-drug campaign. Because it's as we said, it has to be a whole of nation approach. It's not all about just law enforcement. We have to address several facets para po maging holistic ang approach niya. And to solve the problem, not just by arresting drug personalities, but we also have to ensure that airtight cases are filed and to ensure them all the way to conviction. We have to educate people on the ill effects of drugs and the consequences of being involved in illegal drug activities. And we have to introduce rehabilitative efforts and ensure that those who are rehabilitated will no longer be involved after they are successfully rehabilitated.
Pero yung smuggling of drugs from overseas,
Excuse me.
what steps have been taken?
Well, that's why, sir, if you notice in the ICAD, we have member agencies such as the Armed Forces and the Philippine Coast Guard and even the Bureau of Customs, because very challenging po ang ating border control dito. Very challenging ang ating coastlines. Because we have very porous borders and a vast coastline. It's very challenging to police this coastline. I was regional director of PIDEA Region 2 for over a year, and I've seen how difficult it is to manage the coastlines, especially up north, in the areas connecting to the Ilocos. Napakahirap po. And even in Isabela, meron dun sa Palanan, it's a coastal town. Hirap din po.
Yung sinasabi ni Presidente na dinadrop lang, tinatapon na sa dagat.
Opo. And then nire-recover. Shipside style ang smuggling nila. From a bigger ship to smaller ships, or from a bigger ship, itatapon, and then panalagyan ng pabigat, i-recover. Then ililipat to smaller ships.
Sa ano po? Sa South? Kasi, di ba may nag-discover ng drugs dun sa Marawi?
Yes. Opo.
Meron din ba from
Well, they have coastal areas and they have Shabu laboratories there as well. So, it's a real challenge, sir. That's why hindi po pwede na one single agency or 2 agencies alone will tandem to wrestle this gargantuan problem. It has to be A whole of government, a whole of nation approach.
May tanong lang sir.
Yes, sir.
Meron ba tayong model na sinusundan? Or atin ito? Ating model?
Well, we were told that it seems like we're following more of the Lee Kuan Yew model, which was Singapore. It seems like something resemblant of that. And when the campaign in Singapore started, I wasn't there, but counterparts who have attended trainings with us have said that when the campaign started in Singapore back then, it was likewise bloody. Until it is now in its present form, where Singapore has very strict laws on drugs. So
I don't know about Japan, sir, but they yung shabu din medyo matindi rin yung
Opo.
problema na
and
sa
it's
Japan.
it's through the Boryokudan or the organized crime syndicates as well.
Meron ba kayong
Yes, we
sharing
have.
with Japan?
I was former director of international cooperation and foreign affairs here in PDEA, and I know for a fact we have very close and good working relationship with counterparts, not just from the National Police Agency of Japan, but even with their narcotics agency, anti-narcotics agency, and even with the Japan Coast Guard.
And how have we benefited from this relationship?
JICA has several projects in the pipeline, and one of them is focused on rehabilitation and reintegration as well.
Cavite o yata.
Opo.
Other than that, wala na po tayo.
We have information and intelligence exchange with our law enforcement counterparts from Japan.
Wala namang Yakuza.
Wala na, I've been out of the international cooperation service for about 2 years now, so I'm not privy to recent developments. But I know I am privy to especially the rehabilitative side of it, because my staff still attend meetings with the JICA counterparts.
They focus more on rehabilitation and
I think even the US counterparts are more keen on supporting rehabilitation ngayon, and advocacy as well.
I was reading one of the stories written by Joel Edco, Assistant Secretary na yata ngayon sa PCO.
Ganun, si Joel.
And during the time of DG Kakda, ang focus yata ng PDEA is targeting high-value targets yata.
Hanggang ngayon naman po.
Ganun pa rin.
Ganun pa rin, pero we bring a parallel effort to bringing the fight to the barangays. Ang nangyari po kasi in the past administration, the marching order was primarily to suppress the supply. So demand reduction, which is the mandate of in fact this office where we're sitting now, this is Preventive Education and Community Involvement Service. Our mandate is to reach out to the communities and enlist their involvement or their support against illegal drugs. So this one took the back seat. Unlike now, there's a parallel effort to address supply and demand. And it has to be that way. Mas maganda po yung ganun because it's a balanced approach. Because as I said earlier, we will be like dogs chasing our tail if we just focus on only arrests and operations. Kasi hanggat meron po tumatangkilik, may magpaparating. Yun ang problema dyan eh. And I believe we firmly believe this is the right approach. And even the president, if you revisit his campaign slogan, it's not just all about, well, yes, the centerpiece of his campaign was on solving the drug problem. But it's all about tapang at malasakit. Yes, tapang sa enforcement, but that's why there's rehabilitation. And he enlisted the support of counterparts or philanthropists like Wang Rulun of China to put up that 10,000 bed capacity rehab in Isabela. I'm sorry, in Nueva Ecija. It's because he believes in saving and rehabilitating the victims.
Iba lang yung
Iba lang kasi, ang problema po rito, naging yung focus ng local media natuon masyado sa patayan. Which is wrong. It's only one aspect of the operation. Kasi hindi lang naman po pulis na nakakapatay, pati kami. Some of our operations end up in violent incidents simply because the targets resisted arrest and were violent towards the operating teams.
Excuse me. Drug syndicates operating in the country. Ano po ba yung...
Well, primarily, the threat sources from transnational drug groups are the Chinese, African drug syndicates, and until recently, the Mexican drug syndicates they also entered the picture. But the primary were the Chinese. In fact, the Mexican drug syndicates cannot operate without the help of the network of the Chinese and Taiwanese drug trafficking organizations.
Okay, last question.
Yes, sir.
I think it was Senator Lacson who first raised the issue of narco politics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yung may listahan ng si Presidente na
Well,
parating
opo.
niyang dala dati,
Opo.
no, yung 5,000 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Hanggang saan ba aabot yung, well, of course, you had Mayor Espinosa. Pero hanggang saan ba sa tingin niyo? Or,
Well, I'm not privy to the list itself because I'm not from intelligence. But I know it's a pooled list from not just PIDEA but several other law enforcement and intelligence agencies. And definitely there are high-level personalities there. So the challenge is to ensure that those targeted by the campaign or the operations will be, of course, those in that list, among others, who might not be in that list but are actual players in the illegal drug trade. Dapat po ganun. Makatotohanang pagpapatupad ng batas and targeting those that matter, those who really deserve to be arrested and put behind bars. Yes, sir.
palagay ko, sufficient pa.
Thank you, sir. Do they have all the materials they need, like this one? Have we given them rehabilitation?
We will give them, sir.
O sige.